Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be doing our dragon scale tumbler, and we are going to do it with three different ways. I've seen it done three different ways, so we're going to take one cup and we're going to do a few lines of each one on the cup, and then when we finish it, then we can see which one we like the best. So we'll be doing that tonight, and I do have a black base. I did tape the top and the bottom. And then once we get the scales on, that'll be as far as we can go tonight, because I will take the cup and I'll paint it with black spray paint when we get the scales on it. And then once that dries, then I'm going to go in with some of this Tester's color shift paint. I've got two different colors. You can see the shift in them. And then that's what I'll spray the scales with. And then once we do that and it dries, so tonight I'm going to turn you down and we're going to be doing the dragon scale tumbler. And I'm going to get my computer on so that we can see maybe what's going on. Let me see. Let me go back and log back into Tumbler's Tutorials Made Easy for Everyone. See if we can get it going. There we are. And then again, I always tell you, please know that, well, it went away. Please know that if I don't answer your questions during the live, because it's hard for me to see my computer and answer questions at the same time and work at the same time. So just bear with me, and I try to answer every question, even if it's during the live or if it's during a replay when you watch it. So that's what we'll be doing tonight. So I've got it coming up, and let me get it to where I can see everything. I see some hellos there, so we'll go from there. Let me turn the volume down so I don't hear myself. Okay, now let me turn you down. Okay, now maybe I got that where you can see it. Let's get the light over where maybe you can see it a little bit better. Okay, now we're going to start with, and what I did, I took the scales, I cut a bunch of scales for the ones that we do this way, and I measured the scales, just laid them on top of each other this way, up and down the cup, to see sort of how many lines it's going to take. So it looks like we'll be doing 8 one way, 8 another way, and around 8 for the last way. We're going to do one with stencil, vinyl stencil that I cut. We're going to do one with double-sided tape, and then we're going to do a section and we're going to use Mod Podge. So if you'll bear with me, I know it's boring watching all that kind of stuff done, but that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We are going to start with the stencil, the vinyl stencil. Now this happens to be Cricut vinyl stencil, and as you can see here on the bottom, I did do a test cut to see how deep my blade needed to be so I could get it to where it would pull easy. So do that, because the stencil is a little bit different than the vinyl. It's not a lot, but it is somewhat different. So, and I saw a lady named Summer Noel do this particular way, and the others, I've seen so many do those, there's not one that I can name that I saw do them. So this is how it looks when you cut it, and it's sticky on the back side. And I'm going to line it up right around the bottom where I've got my tape, and we'll do that all the way around the bottom, and that should pretty much keep it straight. And then we go back and spray paint it. Then all of these will be the same color. It doesn't matter how we put them down, but what we'll do, we'll see if we like the texture of how it was when we put it down. And that will be the difference in determining which way you want to do your dragon scales. Okay, and I did cut some. Now those, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are together when you lay them down. And then we'll see how many it goes around. And I did cut some individually so that the ones that are individual when we run to a spot to where we need some different, if it overlaps, then we can put some individual ones down. Excuse me. Okay. Now this makes it go a lot faster than the last technique that we're going to do. Okay. Now that came out pretty close right there to the same. But I think what I'm going to do is tear that one off, and then I'm going to place it the way I want it so that it'll look more even where it was overlapped. And then once we get them all on there, then you're not going to really notice it. So I don't know if you can see. Maybe that angle you can see. All right. Now we're going to pull some more. But this is really fast. I like doing this better than any of them because it is so fast. Okay, and now when we go in, we're going to place these so that when they start in the V, you're going to want to scale there. So you're going to have them so that they overlap a little bit, because you want your scales to overlap a little bit. And probably when we get with the other ones, you'll be able to see it better on the camera than you can see it in the cup. Now this is a 20-ounce skinny cup, and I chose it because it's a lot easier to work with than the modern curve or the first ones that came out that's shaped with sort of like a Yeti. But it makes it a lot easier to work with them. Okay. Now when you're overlapping these, one good thing about using the stencil is you can pull it up, place it, pull it up, and place it. Okay, and now we're at the end. Let's see, I think we'll put one more on there, so I'm going to get over here and get one that's just an individual. Pull it up. And put it here where they overlapped. Let's see exactly where I want to put it. Okay. Now that's 2 lines looks like that we've done. And remember, we're going to go back now and put it in between in the V. And you want the point so that they overlap. And I can show you and explain this a lot better to you when we get to the other technique, where you can really see the scales better. With this, you can't see them real good, but you'll be able to when we get back to the other one. And that way, if you've never done a dragon scale, then you'll understand what I'm saying when we overlap them and make sure they start in the V and that kind of stuff. Because I know without being able to see it clearly, it's confusing. Have any of you done a dragon scale? I know some of the ones I think that were requesting it were some that were new, that had not done them before. Okay, now we need one more. There we go. And like I said, this one's not going to be fun watching doing all this, but then it'll start coming together. And it really comes together when you start putting the color shift paint on it. You can use color shift paint or you can use mica powders. You can do it either way, whichever you had rather do. The color shift is going to be faster. I've not done it with the color shift paint before, but it should work the same way as it does with the micas and be a lot faster. So we'll try it that way since it's something I've not done before. And that's the reason I wanted to go with using the color shift. Color shift needs to be, the paint is just like the micas. It works better with a black or a dark base than it does with a light base. Okay, and here they're getting off just a little bit, even though this is supposed to be a straight, skinny cup. So I'm going to overlap that one, pull another one, and overlap that one. Okay. Now, and any questions that you've got, we will go back, like I said, and I'll answer them after I get off the live tonight, or either I'll do them tomorrow. I'll be working with my son at his shop tomorrow, so if I don't get them done tonight, I'll have time to do them tomorrow. And my oldest granddaughter had a birthday today, and it's nothing like being a grandparent. If you're not one yet, you got something precious to look forward to. She started her 5th year in college. She's a history major. Very proud of her. As I'm sure any of you are that have grandchildren. And I have 8 of all ages. They grow up in a hurry. They're like your children. Okay, and I think we're going to do one more, and that's going to be our last one in this. Well, we won't do one more of the ones connected. We'll have to do them in, well, here's one. There we go. That's good. Now these, when Summer Noel did them, she said they have a little bit more texture than regular vinyl, that you can work with it a little better. So that's what we're doing with this. Okay, and the tape that I used, I chose this size because let me get some of the scales out. Because when I lay the scale on it, you want it so that when you lay the scale down, it's going to cover most of the scale. And it covers, as you can see, most of it. This part right here will be sticking up. And that's what we'll do. So when we put our tape down, the tape is going to go right in this V around the cup. And I'll show you once I get it on there. Let me get some scissors. And this is the same tape you would use if I use it doing a serape. Okay. what I'm going to do is take, I don't have my X-Acto knife over here, but we're going to just take this and cut it so that it fits. Okay, now you can see how that's taped on there. And now what I'll do is pull off the top part of the tape. Got the bottom part stuck. Now we want to just leave the glue. So that's what I'm doing, and as you can see, it leaves the glue on there. So now I can't lay it down to work on it. I'm going to have to hold it up, because if I lay it down, then it's going to stick to my table. So let's see if I can get it, hopefully, where you can still see what I'm doing. But now I'm going to go in these V's and take it just to where it comes right below the tape. And then when we paint it, it's going to cover up the tape that's here in between. But when you're putting your scales on, you want them to touch a little bit as you go around. And these are cut out of cardstock. And I didn't use black cardstock simply because I didn't know if when I got into the section with the Mod Podge, if it would start getting everywhere, the black dye in it. I've not done it so with the black, I've only done it with the white. So that's the reason that I didn't use cardstock that's already painted black. And I hope you can see. Looks like you can see what I'm doing. And again, we're letting it overlap just a little bit. As you can see. And this, I like this, I guess second best you'd say, because it's not as messy as the Mod Podge. The first one is not messy at all. And this one, it's really not messy either. Okay, now you can see where they met. So we've got that all the way around. Okay, and then next we're going to put the line and have it come down to right here again, right in the V. And with this you can see better the V that I'm talking about. And let me get something to prop this on, because I don't want to get it all over my table. And start it right here. And all the way around. We want it to come to the V. And the reason that I did the black base is because painting it black, that way, even if you don't get in all the little grooves that's left when you finish doing your scales, it's still black underneath there. Okay. Now, let's see. And that is just barely overlapping, if you can see right in here. Go back in and pull the top part off. Okay. Now you can see we've got the tape on there again. So now we're going to start back in the B's. And And when you do down in the V, then you want where this angles up to come right at the top of each scale. And still overlap a little bit. Are you thinking about a quote that would be good to put on it? I want y'all to help me decide. Now I can already tell that the cardstock is going to have more texture than the stencil vinyl. But we'll still wait and see when we get through and see which one we like better. And I thought this would be a good way to do it, so that way, once you start doing one, if you haven't already, that then you can make a decision as to which way you think it would be better. Easiest for you to do it, quickest for you to do it. And still get the look that you desire. And I'm thinking about getting a TV so that I can have it out in front of me and can see what's on my computer on the TV. And that way it'll be in front of me where I can read comments and look at them as we go. I hate to take time stopping to read comments when we're in this to learn and to try to get it done as quickly as we can. Okay, now you can see where that met all the way around. Now we're going to do another roll of tape. That's 2 rolls of tape that we've done. And again, we're starting right in the V. And I think using the tape helps give it some texture too. And of course, when we put the epoxy on it, then it's going to be smooth. We've got another roll of tape on it. And I'm trying to do this fast so that it won't be quite as boring for y'all to just sit and watch me place these on here. But I know some of you that are just starting, I know when I first started I wanted to see every step. And I did a lot of research, and I found out that YouTube was my best friend. But there's nothing like the experience you get in trial and error in doing the cups yourself. You can watch them done, but until you do them yourself, you really don't realize what you're capable of and what you're not. A lot of times you can see somebody do something and you can try it over and over and over, and some things just don't click and you just can't get it right. But then there's some things that you can watch over and over and over and you just pick it up. Doesn't take a lot of times, maybe one time. That's like with music. A lot of times a song that you're going to sing, you can hear it on the radio, buy the CD, and pick it up right away. But then sometimes you never get it to where you can sing it. Been there, done that. So I know that that's true. Okay. But when you're doing something you enjoy, it's just like play. It's not like work. And to me, this is something I really enjoy. I know I heard a lot of the ladies that talk about, to them it's therapy. And that's why they do it. Okay? It's going pretty fast. Okay, and again, we're laying it right at the top of those V's. And this will be where it'll be a replay. And if you do come in late and you watch it as a replay, I hope you will just put on there that you are watching a replay. And I would love for you to share it, but please don't share it back in this group. When you share it back in this group, it just pops up over and over. And the people that are in this group already have access to it. So they don't need you to share it again to them. But I'm in the process of starting a private group myself that when I do, I'll let all of you know. Well, I've got it started, but I'm not doing any lives on it yet. What I'm doing is sharing these lives on it and getting some on it before I actually really push it. So if you think you might be interested in that, you can let me know. It will be called, my business page is U-Style Designs, and the group will be called U-Style Design Time. And it does have some questions that need to be answered in order to join. So if you think you might want to join, you're welcome to go there if you're from this group, and we'll get you signed up. And then it'll be a few weeks before I start doing lives on there. And what I may do, the ones that I do in the daytime, in the afternoons and the mornings, do them in that group rather than in Rick's and Kelly's group, and still do Monday nights in their group. But we'll see. It's all a work in process, like learning tumblers is a work in process. And I'm probably going to go 1 or 2 more rolls on this, and that way it's so much faster than the Mod Podge. That way we can get this done tonight, and then tomorrow morning I'll paint the cup before I go to work, and then tomorrow night I'll put epoxy on it. And if you want to see me put epoxy on it, just let me know and we'll work out something, because it will be different putting it on this than it is on a cup. You won't be able, like when I'm putting it on a cup, my hand's just going up and down in every which way. Where with this, you won't be able to do that. It'll have to be done in one direction, so you won't pull the scales off. But you still need the scales to lay down. And the paint will help seal them some, so that there won't be a problem. And it'll help cover up. You can still see right in here in these places where you can see the tape, the double-faced tape, and the paint will help cover that up, so the epoxy will work better and not repel against that tape. And again, as you can see, I'm going right, you can see where I'm going in the V here with the tape. I'm trying to keep this where you can see it. I hope I am. Okay. And when I ordered this tape, I got it on Amazon, and there's about, I'm thinking there may be 6 sizes. Some of it's a little over an inch, and then it comes down smaller, and the smallest I think is maybe 1/8 of an inch, something like that. But all I did was go to Amazon and then search for double-faced tape. And that's how I found it. And the scales, I just Googled dragon scales, SVG dragon scales, because my machine cuts in an SVG format. I can do a PDF or PNG and then convert it to a SVG for my machine to cut it. And I use a free program to do my designing called Inkscape. It has a program that's free, and of course then it has one that you can also pay, and it does a lot more, but I'm not into a lot more, I don't guess yet, because I haven't paid to do it, because the free one does everything so far that I've needed to do. But I can use it, and then I just upload it over into my Brother Scanning Cut. That's the machine that I used to cut with, is a Brother Scanning Cut. Now if you look and see, you can see a few little dark spots, and that's what I was talking about when you start painting it. If those spots are there, that way if you're working with a black base, then that way you don't have to worry about those spots. That's like doing a colored base when you're doing your glitter, and it saves a tremendous amount on glitter if you have a colored base that is somewhat the same color as the glitter that you're using, because it doesn't take near as much glitter as it does if you put it on a white base or a silver base. Okay, I'm going to do one more like this, and then we'll start with the really fine Mod Podge. And if y'all do want to see me put the epoxy on it, please just comment and let me know. And I may go back and just do a quick live tomorrow night and show you how we put that on, if you want to see that. But a lot of times most of you have done epoxy and you know how it's done, and I hate to go over and over something that you already know how to do. And most of you probably know how to do dragon scales. And this little cup that I got to keep my dragon scales in, I picked it up. I think I got it at the Dollar Tree. I'm not sure if that's where I got it. There was 2 in a pack. And I thought, well, that'll be something that I can put them in and see them and know what I've got in the cup. And they'll be easy to put them back in and take them back out. It's designed for kids to paint. It's got a place in the top where you can put your brush down in it once it's on, the lid's on top, so that they can stick their brush down in the paint. And I'm all the time looking for something that'll make things easier. Sometimes I find stuff and sometimes I don't. But I like to go shop, and it's what I call a Judy day. When I have a Judy day, that's my day to go by myself, and I go to Michael's and Joann's and Hobby Lobby and Dollar Tree and Five Below and any places like that I like to go that I think I can find stuff to craft with. Okay. And that right there has the, oh, I don't think it hurt. Okay. Now you can see the difference in the scales. Now we're going to go to the fun part. So let's go in and we're going to put a little bit of Mod Podge in a cup. And I've already shook it up before we started. Doesn't take much because you're not going to want to put a whole lot on there. And I'm going to put the gloves on because I just got my nails done today. And of course, I work with them all the time and don't have a problem, but it's just hard to get everything off of your hands once you get it on there. If it's Mod Podge or paint or ink or whatever. Okay. And now I do have some tweezers and I do have a brush. And I'm just going to put several over in here. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and just take several and put some Mod Podge on them. And remember, it dries faster, so you'll have to work with it pretty fast too. Try to keep them all laying in the same direction when you start putting your glue on them. Sometimes they're going to flip over like that one did. And this sort of reminds me of Rick's technique of doing the President Cup with flags and Trump Cup and or Biden Cup, whatever kind you're doing, with all your information, political. Okay. Now, these, once I get them on, I'm probably going to have to go back and put some Mod Podge on them to help hold them. Because they're not going to hold like the others are. But you apply them the same way. You want to try to get them in the V as much as you can. All the way around. Okay. And we'll take some Mod Podge and put on those. Just to sort of help hold them in place. And I think something I might do is try it this way. Put the Mod Podge on the cup. We'll see if that works. I still got it where you can see it. That way is a little bit faster. That way, once you get one on there, you can put the Mod Podge on it and then swipe some for the next scale that you want to put on. And I'm all for faster and better, as I think all you are, and certainly will continue to be as you start doing more and more cups. And you know, I've been disappointed. I had worked on cups for lots of the craft festivals, and we have in our area a fried pie festival in September, and we just got notice that that one's going to be called off. We have a dogwood festival, and it was called off in April, and we have several more. A town fest, and all the small areas here have different festivals and like to set up and sell what you make there. So I think that's really hurt everybody's sales this year. I see this one's going to have a little bit of a gap doing it this way that it didn't have doing it the other techniques. So right here where you can see this spot right here, I'm going to have to put an extra one in there. And it won't ever be noticed once we get everything on it and we paint it. Pull it off with the brush. And what you want to try to do is all the way around when you're doing it, try to keep all these tips as straight as you can, and that way when you get to the top, it's going to come out the way you want it to. Okay. See a lot of comments. I'll be glad when I get through where I can read them, see what everybody's got to say. And I think probably one of the best things to do, even before it's painted, is I may go ahead tonight and just put a little Mod Podge over the whole thing and let it dry. And that way that will sort of help seal it too when it's painted, it'll all seal together a little better. And it also helps keep, you know, my face, helps keep the epoxy from separating and repelling. I know it does when we do the distressed flag tumblers. But this part's so slow and so time consuming, but I'm trying to hurry. And if this is something that you don't want to finish watching, you won't hurt my feelings. I promise. But I wanted to go ahead and do every step so that the new people that's not done them, if they wanted to see the whole process, they can. I know when I first started, I liked seeing how everything was done from beginning to end. Let's put us a little bit more Mod Podge in there. And I keep my Mod Podge in one of these kind of bottles, like you'd put ketchup or mustard or mayonnaise in. And that way I don't have to pour it out and waste it. Usually when I'm using it, I put it just directly on the cup as I need it. But doing this, I think it would be a little bit difficult to do it that way. So that's when I'm doing it a little bit different than what I normally would. When I do a fabric tumbler, the next time I do a fabric tumbler, I'm going to try with clear coat, something a little bit different. I saw one girl do it with that instead of the Mod Podge, and it dried so much faster because the Mod Podge, you have to put so many coats on it. Once you get it on there with Mod Podge, then you have to put about 3 coats of Mod Podge on it and let it dry in between each one, so it's a several day process. And if you don't let it dry when you're doing the fabric, well, then you'll have spots that will come up that will mold up under the epoxy, and it leaves spots that look like slick spots. Like if you're doing the epoxy method for glitter and you get too much epoxy on there, then you have spots where your glitter has slick spots. And it does the same thing when you're doing a fabric tumbler and you don't let your Mod Podge dry. So it's very important that anything that you're putting under your epoxy, you let it dry thoroughly. Okay, now we've got that much done. We only like a little bit more. We're moving pretty fast. Pretty fast. I think you can still see pretty good. And this really does get sticky. Sticky, sticky, sticky. And if you've worked with it doing anything on a tumbler, you know that. Of course, if you've worked with Mod Podge doing anything, you know it's sticky. And like I said, I'm trying to work fast so that we can get it done, and I'll go over your comments once I get off the live and answer any questions. And I think some of you hopefully are talking among yourselves. And right here you can see that section right there is off just a little bit. But when we put this on there, you'll never know it. Anybody, unless they're just down counting scales and looking at scales, and I don't think that's something anybody will be doing. Okay, now I'm taking the Mod Podge all the way up to where my tape is. And this is going to work because what I'm going to do, my scales are going to go right up to where my tape line is. And it just worked out that way, folks. I'm so glad it did. I didn't plan it that way. I did measure to see how many lines of scales I thought I might need. But I didn't measure it that way, but it's coming out just perfect. That way I won't have to cut it around the top. If it had not, I would have had to go in and cut it. And I don't think I'm going to put another layer on here, so I won't have to cut it. And I think it's still going to look really good when we get through. And I'm not much into Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff. That's the reason I need some help with what quote to put on it. And they just want just a cute quote. It has nothing to do with the game. I know I've seen some of them that has a quote, something about Mother of Dragons or something like that. I don't even know what it's all about, because I don't do those games, and my grandkids are all grown and they don't come and play that kind of stuff like they did when they were little bitty. Well, I say they're all grown. They're not all grown. We have grandkids from 1.5 to 23. So we got a wide range of ages. Fun time when everybody comes to Nana and Papa's. Almost through, folks. I think it's going to take 2 more. No, just 1 more did it. Okay, now you can see what it looks like. And then what I'm going to do, you can see where there's some thick places of the Mod Podge that I'll go back in and put it over the whole cup and let it dry, and then paint it tomorrow, and then we can do the epoxy on it. But we're going to do put epoxy on the dragon scale tumbler that we started on Monday night, and I'm going to go over a little bit so the ones that may have missed it, what we did. We took a 20-ounce skinny tumbler and prepped it, painted it black, and then we put the dragon scales on in 3 different techniques. The bottom we use stencil, and you can see, sorry folks, it's a little bit flatter, and then the middle section we did it with the double face, and the top part we did with Mod Podge. So we're going to go tonight and we're going to put the epoxy on it. When I turn it down, I'll show you just a few little touches that I put on it. But when I spray painted it, after I did all of the scales, I spray painted black paint over the whole thing. And then I went in with this color shift paint. As you can see the color shift on it. And I sprayed it with this one first and let it dry. And then I just hit a few spots with this one so it would have a purpley green and a green purple look. They're different, but yet they're the same sort of. So anyway, that's what I did to get the color that I've got on here now. So we're going to go in and I'm going to turn you down and I'm going to show you what we did. We'll see if it's going to work, and if it don't, we'll just go back and do something different. But before I put this in here, let me show you. There's a few spots on here, as you can see, that I made them just glittery and shiny, and I just did them sporadically in spots throughout the cup. And what I did, I used the tacket, and then I used this shifty snake, and this is by Woody's Goodies, and you can see the texture, and it's got a shift to it too. But that's what I used, and I let it dry. Once it dried, then I just brushed it off. I did not seal it or anything. But that's what we're going to do tonight, because several wanted to see the epoxy on the dragon scales. In doing the epoxy on the dragon scales, we'll have to basically do it in one direction. We don't want to brush up on it because we don't want to loosen the scales that are on there. And if you hear a racket in the background to my left, I've got 6 black tumblers turning. So they're for a business. So I'm getting them ready to put the decals on them, but I have to put a coat of epoxy first. But with this, I'm going to go ahead and mix our epoxy. And I use a measuring cup. Y'all remember that. And normally on a 20 ounce I would use a half of a tablespoon, but since this one has the scales that we're going to be covering up, I want to make sure that it has really good coverage, so I am using a tablespoon. And we'll go from there and see if we can make it work. And putting a full tablespoon on it should be enough. And this cleaned out, and then we'll put in part A. I'd use B first, and then I go in and put in part A. And any questions that you've got, if you'll just leave them in the comments, then I'll go in after the live or either sometime tomorrow, and I will answer all your questions. And I'm going to take just a minute and get you pulled up on my computer. See if we can get it on there. I don't see it yet. But I think it's recording, so. And I'm going to put a tablespoon of part A. A is the thicker, B is the thinner, and B is the hardener. That once it's mixed, that's what gets it hard. And with this, I am going to put a little bit of the casting craft in there. I'll show you in just a few minutes. Put that in there to keep any yellow out. And like I said before, I feel like if it's going to yellow white, it will yellow the other colors too. So I always put a little bit if I'm doing a coat that does not have glitter mixed in with it. And this is what I use. It's casting craft. And I've been using this one for 3 years and still got not quite half a bottle, but I've got a lot left still. And as you can see about how much there is. It's about a drop or a little bit less than a drop. And I put my timer on 4 minutes when I'm doing a tablespoon, like for a 30 ounce. Even though this is a 20 ounce, I'm mixing like I'm mixing it for a 30 ounce. I'm going to go back one more time and see if I can get us in here. It says it's live, so let me go back and see. And I stir it pretty vigorously. Scrape around the sides real good. I'm still trying to get it to come up on for some reason I don't see it tonight. It's not pulling up on my computer. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead just like I know I'm live. I can't read your comments on my phone because it's turned down. So I see some comments popping up. So I don't know why it's not live in the group that I can see it. I know it is if y'all are commenting. But it has a good color shift on it. From the side I can see green and then I see purple. And I hope you could see it when I was showing you the cup. Let me get it to turning and maybe you can see it a little bit as it turns. And when I put epoxy on, I always like my tumbler turning away from me. And I think everybody's a little bit different. We all sort of get caught up in what works best for us. So anyway, that's the way I like mine turning. And I wish I could see a few comments and see that it was on, but I can't. I don't know why it's not coming up on my computer. But I hope everybody's had a good day. I've had a busy day. I've done a little bit of running around, and everybody knows how black cups are, so I've worked with black cups today, and we're going to have a company logo on them, so I'll do that probably Friday. And then we'll do the decals on this cup. If the one coat of epoxy works, we'll do the decals tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. And like I said in the note that I put up, that we're going to have some of the decals, the eyes will be regular vinyl. And then the quote that I put on it, I'm going to do it in the HTV vinyl. And that way you can see how I put HTV vinyl on. I've seen several different ways that people do it, but you can see how I do it. But we all work and do things with the same outcome, but a little bit different techniques, so, and that's okay. But this one, to me, it looks really good, and I think probably the ones that we did with the Mod Podge, the scales are more prominent, and then the next one, the one that we did with the double face tape, double stick tape, it shows up a little bit more. And then of course the one with the stencil, we knew it wouldn't show up as much, but it sure is an easier and faster technique. But we'll see when the cup's completely done which we like best and how they show up under the epoxy. And the glitter that I put on, I mean, it's shifting all different colors as the cup turns. Okay, we stirred our epoxy for 4 minutes. And now I'm going to turn this little mat I've got around so that I won't make too big a mess. And I'm going to use the blow dryer in my epoxy to get some of the bubbles out before I start putting it on. It helps just a little bit to get some of them out. And then I'll hit it with a torch. And remember, because the scales are going down, that's the way we're going to put the epoxy on. Normally, I do it right the opposite. So it's something I have to think about when I do it, because it is different than what I normally do it. And you do want to put quite a bit. Color looks really pretty under the epoxy. Makes it pop. And I was real pleased how the measuring of the scales come out, but it wasn't anything that I planned. It just worked that way, and it worked good. So they were just the right size for this cup, and I didn't have to do I did right around the top on maybe 3. I just barely snipped the top off, but very little. But see, I just keep rubbing down on this. Don't want to take my hand and rub back up, because I don't want to loosen any of the scales, because they're all down good and they're sticking good. And now I'm just gonna put the rest on there and just let it turn. And it does look like I may have to put another coat on it in the morning before I leave to go to the shop. And if I do tomorrow night, I'll let you know, but I can just pretty much tell you I'm gonna have to. If I did all of it with the stencil, I would not. But with the top part being done with double stick tape and Mod Podge, I will have to put another coat on there. But that's basically it for tonight. And I will pull the tape. I'll let you see me pull the tape. I know everybody always asks me when I pull the tape. A lot of people will let them turn 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes. I always pull mine right after I do it, and I always leave a little bit of epoxy in my cup so that if I see any spots that are separating or fish eyes are forming, then I just take my spatula, which I stirred it with a popsicle stick, and just drop a drop wherever I see that. So and I have real clean lines pulling my tape this way. And then I take my baby wipe, and right there, right where the tape overlaps, there's always a little spot usually that I have to wipe. But other than that, unless I just get real messy, I don't have to do any more than that. But I have been known to get some on the bottom of the cup, especially when I get carried away rubbing it on there. Well, that's it for tonight. Some of you wanted to see how we did it, and basically the main thing is just keep in mind, always rub it away from your scales the way that they're put on. And I wish I could see the different color shift that I'm seeing. Okay, we're going to do part 3, but I wanted to show you something tonight that I use. Everybody talks about having a problem with paint getting in their cup when they're doing their painting. So when I turn you down, I'm going to show you a trick that I use that I don't get paint inside my tumblers when I paint them. So let's get started. I'm going to turn you down. Okay, now you just take a regular paper plate, cut a slit in it, cut a hole in it, and then when I paint, I put that around my cup and I hold it like this. Holds it tight here, and when I spray around here, I keep it that way and I don't get any paint inside my tumblers. So that's just a quick hack that's cheap, and it will help you to keep from getting paint inside your tumblers. So I thought I'd share that with you before we start. But this is the tumbler that we're going to be working on. This is part 3. We will be doing the decals tonight. As you see, I've taped the top and I've taped the bottom, and we do have a good smooth coat of epoxy on it. So what I'm going to do, I've got one of the eyes on. The eyes, it's regular vinyl, and I used, see, 4 different colors of vinyl to do the eye. And we're going to do an eye on this side. We'll do it first, and then we're going to do one on this side. And then we'll put on our decals, which are, one of them is regular HTV, and one of them is glow-in-the-dark HTV. So let's get started. And as you can see, I went ahead and taped this the way that I always tape it, about halfway, so I can go back and pull this side, and I'll cut the paper off, and then I'll pull the other side. So when we lift this up, make sure you don't leave any of your decal laying down. Cut that part out. Go back, lay your eye on, and then we'll go back and pull this off and do the rest of it. And you can hold on to your pieces of tape. That way you already have them. I can get it to pull up. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to pull this side. Make sure all of it pulls up. And then we're going to go back and push this side down. Rub it really good, because you want it to stick when you put the epoxy on. And then we're going to pull that back. There's one little spot that came up. Okay, now you can see the eye on there. Okay, and I'm going to use this same release tape and put it on this side. And now what I'm going to do is I'll measure where I want them, sort of eyeball it and make sure they're even. And I think they're about the same. And you want to be careful because remember you've just put this one on this side and you don't want to mess it up. Got a little piece of white on it already from somewhere. See what that is. Okay, I'll work on that when we get through with this side. Now I'm going to pull this up, cut the paper back, lay this side down, rub it really good. Pull your tape off. Pull this side up. And rub this side down. Okay. Now, we've got both of them on there. And I'm still trying to figure out what this little white spot is on this one. I don't know where it came from, but we're going to get it off. We certainly don't want that in there. I don't know what happened. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put, this is HTV vinyl. And if you've ever used it, you know when you cut it, you've got to mirror what you're going to be putting on there. And we're going to put this on the back side. We're going to find the center. And let me see, that should be about right, but I'm going to measure it to make sure. And remember, I use my little handy dandy. I don't know what it's called, but it works. This slides up and down on it, and you can put it in the top. Once you get it set, then it's set and you can measure. This side needs to come down just, moved it. So that side's good. That side needs to come a little bit lower. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and use the tape that I had pulled, maybe. Put it at the top and put it on the bottom, and I'll just use that for just a little bit. Now this is what I use. This is a little iron, and I got this at Joann's, and it is DR, let me see if I can get it where I can see it, DRTIZ, that's the name of it. But anyway, they have them at Joann's, or you can order them online, and it works really well. It's got this little point here where when you're pressing on there, you can press with that and you don't burn your finger. And I also have, this is something that you use in the kitchen, and it usually has two, and I cut it in half, and I use it quite a bit if I'm doing a bigger project. But I just start putting this on there and pressing it. And you want to make sure that you don't run off on your cup. The backing that is on this HTV, you use that as your release. Try to keep it where you can see it. Go right up to the edge, but try not to run off because you don't want to burn your epoxy. And I've seen some people do this with just a embossing gun, which is just a different type of a heat gun. It's smaller than a regular heat gun. And I'm sure some of you know what an embossing gun is. I had one of those when I started doing tumblers, and I used it so much I just burned it out. Okay, and this has a little stand where you can sit it up. Now I'm going to take this tape off and get it out of my way, since my decal's set in place. Okay. And after I do this, when I get through, I go right ahead and put my epoxy over it. And you want to make sure that you're covering it really good and putting pressure on it. And I know some of you had asked about using heat transfer vinyl, so that's the reason I wanted to put it on this, so that you could see it. And I liked this particular vinyl. It's sort of a holographic, iridescent vinyl. And then sometimes when you start to pull it up, if you've got a place that did not press down good, you can go back and press it. Just when you start pulling it up, do it slow. And then if you see any places that did not heat and did not press, you can go back and press it down. Okay? Got that pressed down. Okay, and now this is the one that is going to be the glow in the dark. It says, one of the girls gave me a suggestion. It says, always be yourself unless you can be a dragon. So that's what we're going to put on now. And the dragon, we want it to fit the D right up in that little space right there. And all the heat transfer is like regular vinyl. Different kinds, you have to use different settings on your cutting machine. And then this one, stay on your release paper with this too. Don't go in and run off on the previous that you set down. And that one, it cut all the way through. When I first put it on there, I thought I had it set right, and I did not, so it cut all the way through. So I have to be a little bit careful on some of the letters. I did stop it and go back and reset it before I finished printing all of them. And I will go back and answer any questions tonight or tomorrow sometime. I usually don't do any lives on Friday night, but since we didn't get to do it last night, I wanted to go in and try to finish it tonight. And I will go back and put, and then I'll post it sometime tomorrow. Of course, I can show you what it looks like after I pull the tape tonight. But I can do it and turn the lights out tomorrow and put it on so that you can see it glow in the dark. Remember to make sure that you cover it all over with your heat. And I'm not sure how much these cost. I I don't remember because I've had mine a long time. I use it a lot in sewing to press corners, and comes in real handy. It's a handy little tool. Okay, now let's see if we got it pressed down good. And where it seems to be catching is where it cut all the way through. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this bigger piece that I had from the other one and put it right back over that and press it just a little bit more, because that's where it cut all the way through when I was actually cutting the decal out. Okay. Now it looks like it's trying to mess up again a little bit, y'all. But if I don't get it to where you can see the finished product tonight, I will go back and post it tomorrow. But I'm fixing to put the epoxy on it now. So there's the eyes. You can see them, and I pull that up just a little bit when I was rolling it on that towel. Let me press it back down. And I'm going to hit it just a little bit with a heat gun. A lot of times the heat gun will seal that in place. And then when I start putting the epoxy on it, I will, in these areas where that's got a lot of fine lacy looking around the eye, I'll pour it on it before I do any rubbing on it. But I'm going to hit it with a heat gun just a little bit. Okay. Now, clean up some of my mess so that we can get the turner over here. On there so that we can make sure you can see it. And let me see if I ever got you to pull up on the computer. I have to go back in and give me just a minute and we'll see. Okay, I think we're on now. We are. Okay, and remember, I always do my little card, put on there everything I'm using, the vinyl, the colors, everything. So if I have to go back, if somebody requests another one like it, I've always got that information. And I'm going to get me out a couple of baby wipes. Keep those handy. And I always use measuring spoons when I'm doing my epoxy to measure it. Normally on a 20 ounce I would do half of a tablespoon, but because I am covering up all the decals tonight, I will be using a full tablespoon. I'm not going to run it over, but I will get it right up to the edge. And we'll start off with B. B is the thinnest. B is the hardener. Put that in first. Always scrape my spoon out real good. Now we'll use a tablespoon of Part B, and I think probably this is 15 mils of each. It's hard to mash. Okay. Bring your spoon out really good. And then I clean it good with a baby wipe. And I will be using a little bit of the casting craft tonight in the translucent blue. We don't want it yellowing. Doesn't matter if it's colored or white or what we're using. We don't want yellow in it. And I'm excited that Alumilite has come out with a new epoxy, and it is supposed to be non-yellowing as much as epoxy can be non-yellowing. And you want to put right about a drop or a little bit less than a drop. You can see the blue that I've got in there. And then we'll stir it for 4 minutes. And let me see while I'm okay, and I see something that says, where do you get the blue? If you're talking about the blue casting craft, I get it. I got mine at Hobby Lobby over in the model car section, but I noticed the last few times I've been, they had it over in the sections where you can get the paints and the glitters and that kind of thing. Let's see. Somebody said Joann's on there, so that's good. Thanks, Andrea. But I think they sell it at several different places. But I've had this bottle for a long, long time. I've still got probably a third of a bottle, and I've been using it ever since I started doing cups. So it lasts a long time because it doesn't take an awful lot. But you have to be careful with it because it is messy, and I don't know why when it's coming out of that bottle it's so messy, but my bottle looks rough. As you saw when I took the cap off of it, it's just covered in the dye. Always scrape the sides around so that you mix good. Let's see if I can get the cup turning. There we go. Now it's turning the way I like it. I always like the cup turning away from me. And I hope several of you saw where I did post the cup after I did it. I think I did it this morning, showing you the shift in it. When it turns this way, it's got a green to purple. And looking at it this way, it's got a purple to blue. So it's got a nice shift on it. And I did use Testors color shift paint that I painted it. Started with a black base, and then when we did the scales, the bottom part we did with vinyl stencil. The middle section we did with double face sticky tape, and then the top part we did with Mod Podge. We used the same stencil pattern. These are individual petals and this is individual, but this is stencil. It went really fast. To me, it does not look quite as good as the others as far as the scales being noticeable, but it sure was a lot easier to do. And it went a lot faster. But I think probably just depends on how much time you've got as to which I would use. I think probably the top part looks more like a dragon to me because it's textured. You can actually see the scales more than you can on the bottom, but the bottom was a lot easier to do. Okay. Now I saw one place on there that I didn't like the looks of it, so when it comes around I'm going to stop it and press it down. It's on the eye. Okay. And this, it may have to have 2 coats of epoxy on it to finish it. We're going to try and see if one works, and if it doesn't, well then I will have to put another coat on it before I actually sell it. So, but I'm going to hit the, you can see, I'll show you, maybe you can see all the bubbles in there. I don't know if you can see them. I'm going to hit it just a little bit with my heat gun, and you can see it pop some of them. But if you let it set just a little bit more and then hit it again, it'll pop a lot more of them. And when it does that, then we'll put it on and then pop the rest of them as it turns. But the bubbles slowly come to the top. And usually guidelines say to let it sit about 3 or 4 minutes before you actually put it on the cup. But I know most of us don't have time or don't take time to wait for that. So we're going to go ahead and put it on. And I'm just going to drizzle it on to begin with. I'm going to try to do it thin enough that it won't run off all over everything. But it is, I see. And this bottom part, where it doesn't have any decals, you can go ahead and sort of rub it in. I don't like to rub it hard over where I've just put decals unless I put a heavy coat. And that's what I just did on that. Rub it around the bottom, make sure you get it on the bottom good. Ease it around all of this. The eyes, when they come around, I'm putting a heavy coat on there so I can just barely touch the eyes because I don't want them to lift. Because the eyes have a lot of that lace on them, if you remember. Make sure you get it around the top where your tape is, or if you don't tape it off, you'll still want to make sure that you get it good around the top. And I'm going to go ahead and put some more on. And you want it pretty heavy, because if you get it pretty heavy on this coat, sometimes you don't have to go back and do another coat. And that's what we're hoping for. And I'm going to leave a little in my container. I always do that. So if I have some fish eyes come up, I can go in and work on them. So now I'm going to hit it a little bit with my heat gun, or my torch. And you want to keep your torch moving. You don't want to leave it in any one spot. And I can see several places where this is repelling a little bit. So I'll go back in and see if we've got enough of our epoxy that we can fill in those spots. It's mainly around the decal, which normally if it's going to do that, that's where it does. Get a heat gun. Heat gun to get it moving. I see a lot of places that are repelling. So I'm going to go back in and get me one of the finger cots and go in, and I can just barely touch some places and see if we can move some of this up from the bottom up on the part right in there. And this is where you'll want to baby it a little bit. Watch it for a few minutes. And even if you've got something else to do, you can wait 10-15 minutes, come back, look at it again, see if there's something you need to work on, where you need to add something or add a little bit more of the heat gun on it. Sometimes just working with it's enough. And that looks better. Let's let it turn a little bit and see what it does. There's a spot that's... And some of those little specks on the eyes, I can see that they're lifting a little bit. But what I'll do, it will have to have another coat simply because of that. But what I'll do, I'll go in and with my scissors, just snip those little bitty places off. And then I'll put another coat of epoxy on it. But that's about it. And we'll pull the tape. And I will let it turn all night. And I always pull my tape within just a few minutes of putting the epoxy on. There's been a few times when I've had to do a real, what I call a flood coat. And if I do that, I might wait a little bit longer, but 99% of the time, I go ahead and pull it. And there's always usually where the tape overlaps, there'll be a little bitty line that you have to go in like I did just then and wipe it off. But this is turning for tonight. I'll see if when I get off the live, I may be able to post a picture to see if it'll glow in the dark. I'll turn the lights off now, but well, I can go over on the other side of the room, and that'll be how we sign out. I'll see if it will glow in the dark where the dragon, where it says dragon. So I'm going to get up and go turn the lights off. I'll turn this one off and turn the others off, and we'll see what it does. I'm going to get my UV light and turn it on it just a little bit. Then we'll see what it does. Of course, the light from the computer is showing on it, so there you go. Now you can see what it looks like. See that it's going to glow in the dark. So that's pretty cool. All right, well, good night, everybody, and I hope you have a good evening, and thank you for joining. Bye now.